Today's book review is When All Hell Breaks Loose, Stuff You Need to Survive When Disaster Strikes by Cody Lundin. This book was published in 2007 by Gibbs Smith. Cody Lundin, the author of When All Hell Breaks Loose, has been a survival instructor for many years. He founded his own primitive skills school in 1991 and resides in Arizona. He's also the co-star of the Discovery Channel series Dual Survival, along with Dave Canterbury. His approach to survival is to get as close to Mother Nature as possible. When All Hell Breaks Loose was written about urban survival. Its intended purpose appears to be written for the suburbanite to utilize during a disaster to shelter in place. It's also written to bug in and cooperate with your neighbors and those left to survive in your own community. Anyone who wants knowledge of how to prepare to survive most any type of disaster and become more self-reliant during times of chaos in populated areas may benefit from reading this book. The beginning of the book has an introduction that discusses the author's intention for this book. There is also a detailed contents section that describes Part 1 and Part 2 of the book. Part 1 of the book contains chapters 1 through 11. These chapters span across about 85 pages and are included in a portion of the book called Head Candy. This discusses the physiological and psychological aspects of survival, along with the author's emphasis on getting more spiritual with Mother Nature. Chapters 12 through 20 span across about 360 pages and are in Part 2 of the book called Hand Candy. This discusses the gear, supplies, materials, etc. that a person might need on hand to survive a disaster. In the middle of the book is a color insert with some very vibrant color photos of different types of household items that could be used as gear to procure food and water, fire building, rodent traps, lighting considerations, communications, etc. The very back of the book also includes a detailed index. When All Hell Breaks Loose educates the general public about the short and long-term psychological and physiological effects on your body when dealing with a traumatic event. This is a very important reality that isn't discussed in a lot of survival manuals and books. For example, how does stress or fear impair your judgment? What are its symptoms and how to deal with and control your stress and fears? These are all covered in When All Hell Breaks Loose. This book opens the door into group dynamics, not just how to pack a bug-out bag and survive alone, but also how to do it in a small group or even a community. The dynamics of survival as a family are discussed in detail, including children, the elderly, and members with special needs. The author makes note that a well-disciplined team can survive better than a stoic loner. In the gear section of the book, or rather the hand candy section, that discusses food, water, shelter, etc., there discusses alternate methods of procurement, rather than just the usual conventional means of disinfecting water or finding food, but unconventional means of doing so as well. It also includes not just the author's reasoning behind this, but also research data from other experts as well. The who, the what, where, when, and why, all the bases are covered on the majority of the topics discussed. There's really too much information to sift through. A lot of the pages are very busy with lots of stories, cartoons, useless facts, and illustrations that would be difficult to sift through in a real crisis. Less fluff and more organization would be more beneficial to the reader. Oftentimes, when disaster strikes, the only solution is to evacuate. And while the author touches on this subject, there is very little on the act of bugging out. However, it's likely that the gear and supplies could be used in part as being equally applicable to staying or going. In the vast majority of the book, the author presents several methods for accomplishing the same task. Then, in the 20-page chapter on self-defense, there is a written compilation of an interview the author does with the martial artist Mark Bryans. This section is really limited on the self-defense topic because it gives one person's view of one particular method, instead of giving the reader several options on self-defense and then letting the reader choose which method or methods is right for them. The author provides a lot of good information on how to economically prepare to survive on your own for a long period of time and live cheaply and make use of a lot of items that wouldn't normally be considered emergency preparedness items from a marketing standpoint. There are many charts and tables that give the reader information not found in many preparedness or survival books. Information about how to lengthen shelf life of food, what types of foods have the most nutrients and which ones don't, and many uses of baking soda, alternate methods of disinfecting water, etc. The author gives the reader a lot of unconventional methods for accomplishing the same tasks that other books discuss. The book spends a considerable amount of time on group dynamics and how to accomplish leadership and communicate with neighbors and bring your community together to survive as a team, which is not discussed very often in a lot of survival books. This point alone makes this book very unique. How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It by James Wesley Rawls. Bug Out by Scott B. Williams. Tom Brown's Guide to City and Suburban Survival by Tom Brown Jr. This book is widely available online and at many retail bookstores. The cost of this book is around $20, which is a tad bit expensive in comparison to some other books that might give you some of the same information for less money, but still worth a read. When All Hell Breaks Loose received 4 solid stars. It was an enjoyable read with a lot of memorable discussions, and although some of the areas were lightly researched, there's still some convincing arguments discussed. And although there's a lot of fluff and distractions in the book, there's still a lot of helpful information that gives the reader the ability to accomplish basic human needs using some typical and some unconventional methods to accomplish these tasks. When All Hell Breaks Loose is recommended. Check it out. Thanks for watching the Survival Bookshelf, and stay tuned for more.